You're good to go.
I think we're live now, Teresa.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome everyone to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting of Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. Calling the meeting to order, it being 5 o'clock or shortly after. Could I first, everyone has received the agenda. Could I first get somebody to move that the agenda be adopted as presented? Thank you. Moved by Leanne, seconded by Jim. Thank you. Moving on, declarations of interest. Is there any this evening? Wonderful. Good stuff. Moving on. And now we're going to look at the minutes of the previous meeting, September 29th, 2020. The motion is that the Planning Advisory Committee minutes dated September 29th, 2020 be accepted as presented. Anyone like to move that for me, please? Jim, thank you. Second by Leanne, thank you. And moving on to the meat of the agenda, we have 5 items under agenda items. And the first one is 5.1. It's Plan Advisory Committee Report 01-2021, Community Improvement Application for the Downtown Core at 254 King Street West at the Seaway Pharmacy location. And to get the discussion going, if I could have somebody move the recommendation that the Planning Advisory Committee approve the CIP application for 254 King Street West in the amount of $13,500. Oh, moved by Brett, and welcome Brett. Second by Leanne. And with that, Dana, if I could just give you the floor so you can give us the highlights so we can discuss.
Thank you, Chair Jansman. Through you to the committee. So as Chair Jansman mentioned, we've received an application from Seaway Pharmacy. So just to give you a little bit of background on this, the project was actually started back in the summer, and we had originally corresponded with the business owner then, encouraged them to submit an application to the program, which they'd expressed interest in doing so at the time. Unfortunately, a combination of factors delayed them from submitting their application, pandemic, just general business operations, and also managing the renovation project on top of that while trying to keep their business as operational as possible. So we didn't receive the application until November, but they have applied for essentially all of the grant components, which includes the facade grant, signage grant, the interior commercial grant, accessibility grant, and the permit fee grant. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with Seaway Pharmacy. They're a long-standing business. They've been in Prescott for decades, and they've made several improvements to their property over the years. And as I mentioned, they decided to move forward with a new renovation project in the summer. So as noted, the value of the renovation is $83,000, and that's the estimated value. I'm expecting it will probably exceed that amount, but it's a significant investment in the downtown, and it's really great to see the business taking the lead here, and hopefully it will encourage some of the other surrounding business owners to move forward with CIP projects. This is, it's in an area that we haven't had a whole lot of CIP uptake. We've had Zen's in to the east, and NetFox Communications, and our massage therapist, RMT massage therapist, sorry, Shields Massage Therapy, just a bit to the west. But it's nice to see another application coming out of that block, because a lot of our CIPs have been concentrated to the block between Edward and Center. So really good to see some more interest in the program, and we're recommending full approval. Aside from the sign component, unfortunately, the sign as is doesn't comply with the existing bylaw, but I think, you know, we're going to do some follow-up with the business owner and see if we can work with them to get them to maybe transition from the current backlit style, which really isn't an approved sign type as per the bylaw, and see if we could maybe look at getting some overhead lighting or a new type of lighting system that would comply with the sign bylaw. So that may change if the sign does come into compliance, then we would definitely recommend providing them with the full funding. But as it sits today, the sign does not qualify. So we're recommending a total grant of $13,500 for this project.
Thank you, Dana, and thank you for clarifying what made up the variance of $1,000, because I'm sure that was going to be asked. Comments from the committee, questions for Dana, clarification, that kind of thing? Councillor Burton?
Thank you. What a great application for a long time business in our town, right? I mean, they're ready to invest in their business and do some renos and make it the best they can do. So, I mean, that's fabulous. I am going to support this application and looking forward to seeing the renovations. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim or Brett, do you have any questions or concerns?
No questions here, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Todd?
No, nothing really. Just sort of the same comments we made last night about Seaway Valley Pharmacy with regards to the council meeting with the ramp they put in. It's obviously it's a growing and very successful, long-standing business. So anything we can do to support them, absolutely all for. It's great to see them investing in our downtown.
Yeah, and
Indeed.
if I can just jump in, the ramp, I forgot to note, that's really fantastic to see a business kind of taking the lead on that accessibility front as well, which is going to be, you know, ever more important in this aging community.
And even a tree, of course, had to come down for that ramp, but they were willing to replace the tree somewhere else. And it's just a true partnership, right?
The other thing that we didn't note last night, and just mention it really briefly now, is our commitment overall to accessibility in the downtown core, because we do also have that the accessible parking spot coming right across the street there beside Shoppers as well. We've got that area blocked off, so that entire little district will be much more accessible. You three the three key locations down there that'll be fully accessible, plus the parking on the street, plus the parking in the lot. So we're doing all we can to try to make sure that people can get to our downtown and shop in our stores.
Dana, if I could ask, back to the signage thing, because it's not in compliance, is it then not in compliance with our signage bylaw as well?
Yeah, and that is the issue, is it needs to comply with the sign bylaw to receive funding support through the CIP program. But as I said, we're currently in correspondence with the business owner, just kind of discussing some options to see if they might be open to making a change to the lighting that would then bring that into the compliance.
Because they would have to comply regardless with the signage bylaw, correct?
Yes, essentially that is, we definitely require adherence to the signage bylaw. But you know, it's a relatively new bylaw. So there's an education process involved with that as well. So I think we're prepared to provide a little bit of leeway with businesses.
Of course, very good. Thank you very much. Okay, if there's not any more comments or conversation about this, call a vote. All in favor? Perfect. Thank you. Carried. And moving on to the next one is PAC report 02/2021 signed bylaw variance application under section 3.6 of the Town of Prescott sign bylaw 2016-16. The recommendation that the Planning Advisory Committee receive the staff report on file number SPBV 2020-02 and approve the variance requested of the sign bylaw 2019-16 with the following conditions. And the conditions being that the applicant shall obtain all permits and submit payment for said permits. And the second, that the signs be installed as per the design submitted and inspected by the town in the timely manner. Could I have somebody move that recommendation for discussion, please? Thanks, Jim. Seconded by Leanne. And with that, I'm going to ask Sean Merriman if you would speak to the highlights of this report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, this application was submitted on behalf of Tim Hortons, of course, a local franchise that's been in the community for a large number of years. And of course, like many of the drive-through restaurant type signage, it was switching to a full media sign. In fact, two of them. As you know, those have to come before the PAC committee for consideration. And in this case, we advised them back in August when they first submitted that it would need to come to the committee. Unfortunately, due to COVID and stuff like that, they did not get a completed application to the town of Prescott until just before Christmas. And of course, we went into the lockdown, and now this is our first meeting since then. The nice thing is, in this case, much like many of the other signs, the location is fairly benign in that there's no residential site, lights behind. There's not street viewing or street issues where, it will cause a distraction on the streets. It was distributed amongst all the all the different departments in the town. And so therefore staff feels that it does meet the general intent of the sign bylaw and is recommending that PAC approve it. The application was submitted with the thing. As you can see, it's like I say, very common to what's out there now in drive-through media signs. And of course, one is kind of to highlight what I call what's special going on for the menu, and then the other one's the actual menu itself. Also on that other one, it sometimes has signage like the Smile campaign, Roll Up the Rim campaign, stuff like that to help educate the public to what's currently going on. And that is the extent of the report on the new signs for Tim Hortons being requested.
Great. And just in case anybody is watching from the public, as Mr. Merriman mentioned, it's not like road sign. It is the drive-through signs, which of course is literally behind the building, right? And not involved in traffic by any means.
Behind and to the side.
Right. Exactly. Thank you. Questions, comments for Sean? Anyone? I liked in your report, Sean, that that each one-on-one case and should be considered on the merits of the individual location, and that brings common sense, right, to the decision,
Yeah, these media signs can be very distracting if put in the wrong locations. And unfortunately, like everything else, it would be very tough to write a bylaw that could consider all the different possible locations that they could be considered. So this was deemed to be the most reliable way to take a look at it, to bring it before PAC on an individual case and take a look at each individual location as it comes forward and as the town develops too. You have to think about what's going there in the future as well as what's there now.
Oh, good point. And not causing any, again, making reference to your report, not causing any undue safety concerns. So that's great. Last call for any comments or questions. With that, all in favor? Sorry, Jim, was that all good? Yeah, perfect. Okay, that was carried. Thank you. And the next one is just an update on the financial ongoing accumulative financial of our CIP financial activity. And thank you, Lindsay, for sending that out in the second format. Do you want to speak to this at all, Matthew, before we discuss it?
I'd be happy to. So through you, Madam Chair, As you can see, we've put the revenue at the top and gone through that a number of iterations, which I think we're now hitting our stride in terms of format. So I've included the 2021 vacancy rebate, which is currently in the budget. And council is currently contemplating adding an additional $50,000 to the CIP reserve. So when you're going through this, you can see that now a number of the applications and approvals have been completed and therefore closed. And you can see where the variances have come in. So all told, when we're taking a look at what we've approved over the last 3 or 4 years, that there's 22,185 that wasn't spent that was approved, and therefore we've added that back. So with the one that you just approved, and then with all the ones that you have previously approved over the last 3 years, there's still $45,000 in the fund. And then, as I mentioned, the $50,000, if approved by council, would bump that up to 95. So it's a great news. I think it really shows how much we've supported this and how successful it's been. And we would have, even after this evening's approval, up to $95,000 to support additional applications this year.
Wonderful. Awesome. Matthew, could I ask, what's the difference between, under the status column, the difference between in progress versus pending, or if there's any difference? There's only one example of pending.
So pending is that I think we're just waiting on the final documentation. And so I think the project's complete. We're just waiting on the final documentation and then being able to bring that one to a close. The other ones are the projects are ongoing, and therefore they're not at the point of being wrapped up at this point.
Perfect. And at one time, like you said, we had a couple of different formats. At one time, the loans portion was part of this too, but I can see now that that's not, just to make it simpler, I suspect, it's not part.
And so we can bring that back. I actually just neglected to include it in this one, but certainly we can bring that to the next meeting. And again, it will very much follow this format and just be a second page for loans.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Does anyone else have questions for Matthew regarding this financial report? Councillor Burton?
Thank you. It's just actually just a comment, and what a great way to invest in our community and these businesses. I mean, this is fantastic. Almost $95,000 possibly into this the CIP program, and we can help the businesses, and it's a great partnership, and really looking forward to seeing some results in our downtown core. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
I just want to reiterate those comments. I think it's great to see this investment in the downtown. I think we need to make the downtown as competitive as possible, and hopefully it'll pay off in years to come. So very well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Todd, any comments or questions?
Same thing. I mean, this was something that was an objective quite a number of years ago to open up the CIP, and we've achieved it the last few years. So it's really great to see that we're seeing such success. But the one thing I would just note that I think we really have to, especially if we're going into a downtown rejuvenation project, essentially this summer, with what we talked about at the budget last night for the streetscaping, this is a valuable component that I think needs to be really out to the public. I mean, obviously the business community sort of gets the idea for the most part this is happening because we've had such a number of applicants, but I think we've got to really promote this to the public and just really get that out there. I would suggest in the spring at the very latest, so we can generate some of the good news around the downtown overall that will tie in to into the streetscaping. There are some really good news stories there, but the problem is most people just look and they do see some empty storefronts and they see some storefronts that are not in the best of condition right now. And we know, those of us on this committee in particular, that there's work going on inside in a number of those buildings. So we really need to just hone the message on this and make sure that that we get that out there. So I'd suggest it come back to council, and then we look at something from the council perspective in terms of a press release to really make the case here and get it out there, because we've got a good story happening downtown with a lot of things, and this is a big part of it. But I do think not as many people out there know about it as probably should.
And perhaps Mayor Todd and I are both on the BIA committee, and once a press release is done, the BIA would be a great vehicle, as well as using Justin, I suspect, Danielle, Dana, for spreading the word with the digital marketing and stuff. There's many.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll be a significant asset for us moving forward, definitely, in addition to the regular promotions that we're already doing with the business community.
Wonderful, thank you. And I suspect, Matthew, this is just a little thing. The 14,500 that was just approved tonight. Did you leave that 14,500 thinking that the signage might still change, or should that read 13,500?
So I put it in there at 14.5 because that was their request, and then it was under consideration. So I'll change that to 13.5. But we know that if they come into compliance, then we'd be happy to recommend that.
Perfect, good stuff. Awesome.
Actually, Madam Chair, just one quick comment on that. I just remembered I'm presenting this year for Prescott at the Augusta Mayor's Breakfast, and that always gets quite a bit of press coverage in the area. So Dana, Matt, let's talk about putting a lot of this into that presentation this year. So we've got that good news story to go there with all the great stuff that's happening in the downtown. We can include this. The big number, though, is just the total funding compared to what that generated in private investment. And even if there's a way to tag in the tax benefit on this as well, like what we're talking about, I don't know if that's an easy number to calculate, Matt, but I mean, anything there that shows what's coming back would be fantastic. Not just the money going out, but what we're generating. So let's talk about that, because that gives me a great idea for that presentation for the end of March with some good news stories from the downtown.
Excellent.
Thanks.
I'm just writing that down. That's great. Okay. So no motion or anything, as that was just for information, correct? Okay. So moving on, any new business to discuss? Jim?
Thank you, Chair. I just had a question, and I hope I haven't missed something, but it relates to the sign bylaw. I've actually got 3 devices going. I've got the agenda on my phone. I've got the CIP financial record on my iPad, and I've got the computer in front of me. So, Sean, I seem to recall a variance on the sign bylaw last year for Tim Hortons as well. And I'm just asking, and again, I hope I haven't missed Sean's explanation, but is there a need for a change to the sign bylaw to deal with the digital end of it, or is that by design and the way it should stay?
It was by through you, Madam Chair. It was by design because of the way video and electronic signs are. It did come through last year, but that was for the place up at the Ultramar, not for the one that's the what I call the stand. Like the Ultramar was a new Tim Hortons franchise, whereas this is at the pre-existing franchise that's on Edward Street. So if they'd known they were doing both at the same time, we could have put them both together, but we didn't know that. So.
So certainly from
Thank you, Chair.
If I may speak to it, Madam Chair. So certainly from a intention, we wanted to make sure that we were able to take a sober second look and have an opportunity to really look at those digital signs and their placement in particular. And so because they have an effect on the ability to distract traffic and that sort of thing, as well as light pollution onto neighboring properties, then we felt it was something that really needed a separate process that we could fully delve into that design and that placement. And so that was the intention behind it.
Okay, no follow-up? No. Okay. Any other new business? Moving on then for media questions. And last but not least is adjournment. So I thank everybody again for their attendance, and I appreciate the awkward time of the day. And with that, could I have somebody move to adjourn, please? Thank you, Brett. Second by Leanne. And that's it. Thank you very much. And until next time, stay healthy.